Pescadito el otro, cabrón.
Knockout.
Well, 8 years ago, people at the Mayweather gym had to call Floyd, had to get him on the phone to tell him about this 10-year-old that was making everyone in the gym cry. That kid grew up to be Curmel Moton.
5-0.
Yes, sir.
What? 7-0?
7 knockouts.
7-0. The Gorilla 3-0, 5-0. Double trouble.
Double trouble?
What they say?
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So as Curmel Moton starts to climb up the rankings, he's also climbing up all the way to the top of the coincidental list. For those of you guys who don't know, the coincidental list are the fighters that all coincidentally end up getting treated the same way by a particular demographic when it comes to the fans. And everyone on the coincidental list happened to coincidentally look the same. It started with Floyd Mayweather. Then it went to Andre Ward. Then it went to Terrence Crawford. Then it went to Devin Haney and Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Now it is Curmel Moton's turn. And soon it will be Abdullah Mason's turn as well. So with that all being said, Curmel Moton, he just got his 5th win as a pro, knocking out a Mexican fighter in Mexico by the name of Victor Vasquez, who had a record of 5-2. Curmel Moton, he did exactly what he's supposed to do when it comes to a fighter on that level. He knocked him out in the very first round, in the first 30 seconds to be exact. So a day before this fight even took place, like after the weigh-in, I started to get some people sending me messages. They were showing me threads in the comment section of what racist fans were saying about Curmel Moton, saying the same things that these racist fans always say about a fighter on a coincidental list. The only difference is they're saying it about a different fighter on a different date. Some of the comments were just straight out racist comments towards black people from Mexican fans. 85% of these comments are coming from Mexican fans. The other 15% are other Latinos. There were comments of them criticizing Curmel Moton's opposition, his level of opposition, saying the guy hasn't fought in a year. He's fighting bums, he's cherry picking, he's overrated, etc., etc., etc. Now, because the majority of fans that are saying these things about Curmel Moton are Mexican fans, I challenge you right now to find me a Mexican teenage prospect who's fighting better competition than Curmel Moton has in the first 5 fights of his professional career. Curmel Moton's first 3 professional fights were all against undefeated opponents, and some of them were prospects. Anthony Cuba was a prospect. In fact, if you haven't watched that fight on YouTube, go watch it. Listen to the commentary. Listen to how the commentators are praising Cuba. In fact, they were almost praising Cuba more than they were praising Moton, despite the fact that Moton was completely dominating him. So here's my point. You have these race fans that are saying, oh, this guy that he just knocked out, he hasn't fought in a year. But Anthony Cuba, he wasn't inactive and he was undefeated. So if race fans are complaining because they say that Cuba's last opponent, or the one he just knocked out, was inactive and he hadn't had a fight in a year, according to their own logic, they should be praising Moton for fighting against Anthony Cuba, right? But they didn't. We know what time it is. Not only did Moton start his career off fighting against 3 undefeated fighters, but Floyd Mayweather also wanted to put Moton in the ring with the champion Leigh Woods at the time, which Leigh Woods actually turned down. Man, when it comes to giving you guys some contrast, I can give you so many examples. If you're talking about an American professional boxer's resume at 5-0, let's look at the great Julio Cesar Chavez's record. Let's look at some of the guys he was fighting in his first 50 or 60 fights. Let's take a look at Julio Cesar Chavez's first 14 opponents. Out of the first 14 opponents, the first 2 opponents he fought had the best records, because his first opponent, Bobby Fernandez, was making his debut like Chavez was. His second opponent was 2-0. Now look at the records of the opponents he fought after that. The next guy was 0-7. I'm just going to read his opponent's records. Next opponent, 20-13. Then you have 27-10. Then you have 1-2. Then you have 25-14. Then it's 0-1. Then it's 0-1 again. 1-6, 2-3, 15-12, 21-13, and then 6-5. Out of the 14, 4 of the guys that Chavez fought didn't even have one single win. Now, you would think after 14 to 15 fights, the competition got way better after that, but it didn't. Chavez was still fighting the same level of opposition for at least his next 20 fights. But then when Chavez Sr. was 40-0, you know who he fought? He fought Armando Flores. And after he lost to Chavez, he ended his career 0-4, never winning one single fight. And Senior's next opponent right after that was a guy that was 3-3. Listen, I could sit here all day and do this. I could show you guys, or I could just tell you, go ahead and look at Canelo Alvarez's record on BoxRec. Remember, Canelo Alvarez, he turned pro at the age of 15. And it took him 6 years to fight for a watered-down title, fighting against Matthew Hatton at 154. Matthew Hatton, for those of you guys who don't know, he didn't even fight at 154. Not only was he not ranked in the top 10 at 154, he wasn't even ranked in the top 10 at 147, which is where he fought. And yet, some kind of way, Canelo Alvarez was able to fight this welterweight for a world title. And that was a 21-year-old Canelo Alvarez with a record of 35-0, compared to an 18-year-old Curmel Moton with a record of 5-0. But it's not just Chavez and Canelo. I mean, you guys can look up Emiliano Vargas's record right now on BoxRec. Matter of fact, you can look up all of the Vargas records right now. Look at Fernando Vargas Jr.'s record. Look at Amado Vargas' record. And compare their age and their record to Curmel Moton's record. It's really unfortunate that America is the only country that's like this. America is the only country to have people migrate from another country to become your rival in your own country. It's remarkable when you really think about it. When Anthony Joshua loses, he doesn't have to worry about too many people in his own country celebrating that he lost. Manny Pacquiao doesn't have to worry about his country celebrating him losing. Chavez doesn't, Canelo doesn't, and the list just goes on and on and on. Only in America would you see someone living in America repping a different flag, rooting against the American fighter. And listen, let me make this very clear. I'm not asking for their support at all. I want all of the anti-racists to be aware of what's going on. I want you to always know what time it is. I'm here to expose them, that's all. Because when we all start to expose them, that's when they feel more uncomfortable. For all the Black American fighters that keep winning and keep dominating, you ain't gotta show these racists no respect. Just keep winning. Just keep doing what you do. Because at the end of the day, they are jealous of you. They want their favorite fighter to be as good as you, to be as dominant as you are. That's why they always set the bar so high for Black American fighters. Ever since Curmel Moton turned pro, they have already been praying for his downfall because they already expect him to be the next big thing in the sport of boxing. You notice none of these Mexican fans that are trying to diss Curmel Moton, none of them are saying, hey man, why don't you fight that other Mexican fighter? Why don't you fight this guy, that guy? They're not telling him to fight some other Mexican undefeated fighter because they know how good Curmel Moton is. So they're doing the same thing to Curmel that they do to all the fighters on the coincidental list. They don't compare him to another fighter who's not Black. They're really just comparing Curmel to himself. This is what they always did with Floyd Mayweather. They would try to bash him, but they were really just comparing Floyd Mayweather to Floyd Mayweather. At the end of the day, USA will always dominate the sport of boxing in terms of breeding the best talent. I mean, when you got millions of dollars in the bank, you can lose $1,000 here and there and not even notice it's missing, not even care. When you breed as much talent as USA does, it doesn't matter if one of our guys loses. There's about 5 or 10 undefeated, very gifted, talented fighters waiting in line to take that fighter's place. And it has been this way since the inception. There has almost always been a pound-for-pound king from America. From Jack Johnson to Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Pernell Whitaker, Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Bernard Hopkins, Terry Norris, Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, and the current pound-for-pound king, Terrence Crawford. All of those fighters that I just named at one point were considered the best fighter in the entire world. And this is what kills these racists. That's why they celebrate whenever any black fighter loses. It doesn't even matter if he's considered the next best thing or the next pound for pound king. Just because he's black and he loses, they celebrate so much and start filling up the internet with racist comments towards black people just because the black guy lost. And I always tell them, you better look at the scoreboard. Y'all running up and down the court celebrating because you just got 2 points. Meanwhile, you're down 20 points in the game, and it's only a minute left in the fourth quarter. That means these race fans, they have accepted being losers. So then they just settle for getting moral victories, right? Isaac Cruz, he didn't get knocked out by Javante, so we won. Madrimov, he didn't get knocked out by Crawford, so we won. Madrimov was so good that he made it a close fight. He was actually competitive with Superman. Because that's how these race fans see us. They see us as superheroes. That's the reason why, once again, the standard is always set so high by these race fans when it comes to the black American boxers. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.